Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Ash and Avery on 90 Day Fiancé. So let's watch them on this show and see if I have anything of interest to say as we watch the show.
And I still feel uneasy about his relationship coaching business. Something happened earlier this morning that's making me question how he interacts with his clients. But I want to wait for the right moment to be able to talk about it.
So it's normal to be concerned, I suppose. It's how you talk about it, right? I will say, as a marriage therapist myself and as a professor, I guess mainly as a professor, 95% of my students and trainees are women. And my wife, I guess, has to cope with that on some level. Since I've been watching this show, I asked my wife about it, and she's like, I don't care. We, I guess, have a secure enough relationship, or Stacy, my wife, is secure enough in herself that it doesn't trigger any of her fears and thus her jealousy response. So there's nothing inherently threatening about a man, a heterosexual man, working with a lot of women. There were times in my life when I'm probably guessing that a majority of my clients were women, and they might have been talking with me about their relationships. But I'm at work. It'd be like saying that a male gynecologist or something is somehow a threat, or his job, or the women that he is treating are somehow a threat to the man's marriage. We're professionals, we know. Now, Ash, is a coach, which is it's not regulated. I'm pretty sure in Australia it's not regulated. I didn't look it up, but it's not regulated in the United States the way that mental health professionals are. So, for example, in my state of Washington, I have to get a license, and thus, if I do something wrong, that license can be taken away from me, or it can be sanctioned in some way. Plus, in order to get the license, I have to fulfill certain requirements, education, ongoing continuing education, supervision, all these kinds of things. And so there's a lot of hoops I have to jump through in order to get to where I am, where I can say I'm a licensed therapist in the United States. Whereas a coach, there aren't any of those things. And I'm in my state, and I'm pretty sure in Australia it is as well. So the fact that someone is a licensed clinician in the United States and in Australia, that means that the licensing process weeds out certain sorts of bad actors, and it also teaches you the things that you need to know in order to make sure that you're doing ethical practice. Coaching doesn't yet have those kinds of hoops. Now, some of you out there might be like, hey, I'm a coach and I got certified by this organization. And yeah, there are some organizations that are cropping up that are trying to professionalize and trying to provide certification, that kind of thing. And I applaud those efforts, but it's still pretty loose. For example, I don't know about Melbourne, but in Seattle, a 13-year-old kid could call themselves a relationship coach. So there's that. Now, my point is that just because he is a relationship coach, just because most of his clients are women, that does not mean anything is afoot, if you will. You would have to know more information. It's perfectly reasonable to have questions from her standpoint, but I'm in a similar kind of situation to Ash, and no one ever has been threatened by my job in that way because I'm a professional. But anyway, again, there's nothing wrong with being concerned, and it's a matter of how you communicate that. So let's continue watching.
Are we going on that one?
Having said all that, there's a chance that Ash is completely a scumbag and doing all these terrible things, but we just don't have data on that. So I'll just say that.
I was going to ask you, babe, for coaching, what kind of stuff would people come to you for?
So what I try to do is I try to help them navigate that and find someone that they can connect with.
Like, what's your system?
I don't find it great to work with system because everyone is different. So.
But I mean, like, do you have specific times that you meet up with them? Like, because I just saw your phone earlier, you had 68 text messages.
So again, if I had I don't have clients that do this currently, but I have supervisees who have a lot of clients who they communicate over text sometimes, and they might get a lot of texts or communications from their clients in a given day. So the show plays the ominous music, but as a clinician, when I hear stuff like that, that doesn't necessarily mean something wrong is afoot, as I said earlier. It could mean something wrong is afoot, but a clinician who gets a lot of, now one might not call him a clinician, but a helper, let's just call him someone who helps people, for him to get a lot of text messages is not a crime. It might be part of his model. Now, she is trying to get more information, which makes sense, and it's coming across a little accusatory, which I'm guessing is triggering him to start to manage her feelings by being shady with her. I hope that I hope he's not shady. I hope he's not doing bad things. I'm going to assume innocence until proven guilty, and if he is innocent, then I hope he just tells her, look, here's my model, here's what I do. Yes, I encourage them to text me, and if I have time available, which I don't today because I'm with you, then sometimes I'll get back to them. It's a way to retain clients. I charge them money, and I want to provide them a service that they consider to be valuable, and that means that sometimes I have to work on my off hours. Now, it doesn't help that Ash has a very, shall we say, hippie way of describing things. I'm from Seattle. We're a hippie town, so I'm well used to hippie talk. But the way that he said that is just like, well, I don't like to use systems. Well, it's kind of in line with his organic, or I don't know what you would call it, his energy vibe way of talking about things. And that doesn't reassure her, right? It's like it's too floppy. There's too many, lack of boundaries. And so he would do well by saying, okay, I'm a business, and here is what I do, and here are the framework, and here are the boundaries. And for her, that would, I'm guessing, help. But maybe he's just not used to describing things in that way.
This morning, Ash was showing me something in his phone, and I saw 68 text messages, and they all appeared to be from different women.
Again, that's not inherently a problem. For me, for example, most of my trainees are women, and in a given day, I'm not going to get 68 text messages, but I might get a lot of emails, a lot of voicemails, and some text. I don't like to communicate with people over text in my professional life, but I might get a lot of emails. I might get phone calls. And that doesn't mean anything nefarious is going on. It just means that that's my job. It's my job to tend to my students and my trainees and my clients and my supervisees. And if 99% of them or 95% of them are women, then that's just the way that it is. It's not an inherent threat. Now, I will say, maybe he's a total scumbag. Maybe there's something terribly wrong with what he's doing. His coaching profession, we just don't know anything about. But again, I want to assume innocence until proven guilty.
It's alarming because I have no way of knowing who's a client and who isn't. I don't know if I can date a relationship coach when they're being accessible to women all the time.
I think you don't have room to tell me that.
So it's not a great response. It's perfectly fine if he's like, hey, this is my business. But because of his way of communicating, he isn't forthcoming. What he should be doing, and this drives me crazy in my personal life when people like Ash don't do this. Clinically, I will help him like, okay, what's going on for you right now? How are you feeling? And I would help him to feel safe and secure so he could and then I would encourage him to explain himself. Like, what's going on in your mind? Explain. Do you feel like she's interrogating you? Okay, let's have her back off. What do you want, Avery? Well, I'm worried. Okay, she's worried about your business. Maybe if you explain your business in full, that will help. So how about you just give details? Don't withhold information as a way of trying to manage her feelings. Like just let loose. You can let loose. You can trust us with letting loose. I'm guessing that's where he's at. He's like, he's getting anxious. He's worried he's going to lose her. He's worried he's going to be judged. And so what his choice is to retain information and to try to be as blank as possible. There are certain people that are like that. So the best thing he could do right now is just to start blabbing and just be like, hey, I don't like this conversation where you're going with this. Let me just explain everything that's going on. This is what I do at my job. These are the people I talk to. Yes, some of those texts, some of the texts that you see, the 68 texts, do you want to read them all? Some of them are actually from ex-girlfriends of mine that I dated in the past, and I'm friends with a lot of my exes, but I'm not going to hang out with them because I'm with you. I'm in love with you. If you want me not to be friends with my exes, I suppose, I can accommodate that, but I didn't know we had that arrangement. Just blab, just let it out. If you don't let it out, then you come across as super shady, which is, I'm guessing, not what he's trying to portray. And when you come across as super shady, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot because she's going to run like hell because you have so many red flags of someone who's a douchebag. And so his efforts to not look like a douchebag are making him look like a douchebag. Having said that, maybe he is a douchebag. The show, I'm guessing, will reveal that as time goes on. We'll see.
I have room to tell you that.
Okay, no, but those are the things because
That's not fair at all.
So she has room to express her concerns and her worries. I don't know if she has room to tell him that, because she basically was implying that he was up to no good and that he needs to stop his business and that he needs to have more male clients, or it's unclear exactly what demand she's making in that he's interpreting. So this conversation is suffering from a lack of clarity. I'm sure what's going on in her mind is very different than what he thinks is going on in her mind, and vice versa. I think they're just really misunderstanding each other. Having said that, maybe he's shady, and this is all his way of trying to put up smoke and mirrors. He's going to get angry and draw boundaries because he is truly trying to hide something. Somehow I doubt that because people aren't usually like that. So, let's see what happens.
Baby, I myself, I'm gradually understanding, okay, what works best for me. I'm single right now. So I'm working.
You're single right now?
I was single before.
It's really shocking to hear Ash say that he's single, especially after risking everything to travel across the world to meet him. It's like an instant, punch to the gut.
It is truly a weird thing for him to say. Was it a slip of the tongue? Was it a Freudian slip of the tongue? It's just adding to the shadiness of his presentation. And I have two running hypotheses. He's either a Machiavellian lying psychopath and he's trying to trick her and he knows he's trying to trick her. That's a rare personality trait, personality condition. So that's not as likely as the more likely scenario is that he is terrified of losing people and he has defenses based on his past that make him knee-jerk do shady things as a way of trying to keep people close to him, but it actually pushes people away. That's the definition of, that's the definition of a lot of defense mechanisms is they are there to protect us. They're there to help us get our needs met, but they often will get in the way of us getting our needs met.
Do acknowledge the fact that you are in a relationship. Do you not think that?
No, now you're in my life. Sorry, I do apologize. Maybe the way that I expressed that to you was wrong.
Okay. I'm worried he's hiding something from me. Because when I'm asking him questions about how he conducts his coaching, I feel like he gets flustered, like he goes into a defense mode.
Yeah, she's accurate. Now, I'm quite sure that the show is editing this conversation heavily, and it's frustrating because I'm trying to figure this out and for them to chop the conversation up so that we don't see I wish they would just do a two-shot and just have them talk and just show us rather than all these what are quite obvious jump cuts between different facial expressions and whatnot. I usually let them off the hook, these TV shows, and this show in particular, because I'm like, well, I know that was a jump cut, but I can intuit what the conversation would have been like if I were there. But this one seems like heavily edited. Now, I will say that, yeah, he does seem to be coming across as defensive, and she is healthy to see that. And she seems quite calm, which is good too. I think she's remaining differentiated. She's like, you're being kind of shady. Let's you're being defensive. How do I get through that? So let's see if they can manage it. He has been honest before, or appeared to be honest before, so let's see if he can get there.
I think I'm trying to attack you right now.
Oh, why?
Sometimes your body language towards me when I start asking a bunch of questions is like...
So that was great of Avery. She's like, okay, he's being defensive. That's annoying to me. Rather than reacting against that, which we see a lot of other couples do on this show, where you would say, how dare you? You're shady. You're cheating on me. The only reason why you're defensive is because you must be trying to trick me. You're just using me to get to the United States. Like, we've seen that kind of behavior before, right? Instead, she's like, okay, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and trust that he's doing this for some logical reason that doesn't include he hates me on the inside. So why would you do this? And so the gears are turning in her head, and she's like, oh, I wonder if he feels like I'm attacking him. Is that why he's getting defensive? Because I'm not. I'm just curious about his job. I just want to be included in his life. Like, why is he being defensive about the details of his job? So she says, do you think I'm attacking you? Which is a wonderful thing to say. And then his response is, no, why? Like, he's shady about the defensiveness. It's not helping, Ash. When you do that, it makes you look like a potential psychopath, but at the very least, it's not functional, because it's like, well, do you know why I'm asking you why, if you feel like I'm attacking you? Because you're clearly defensive, Anyway, this doesn't bode well. I think that he's going to have a hard time navigating his defenses through this.
What I get maybe is I become a bit more serious on my tone. Serious on my tone doesn't mean I'm getting defensive on you.
Yikes. He's not yelling. We've certainly seen worse defensiveness on this show, but to just deny what is obviously happening is concerning. That he can't be like, well, the reason why I'm getting defensive is because I feel like you're interrogating me and you're accusing me of cheating on you, which I'm not doing. Like, just say that. There's nothing wrong with saying, yes, I'm being defensive, and the reason why is because I feel like you're coming at me, assuming that I'm having sex with my clients, and that's ridiculous. Unless Ash is actually hiding something, which I'm guessing the show will reveal.
And you have to respect, and you have to actually acknowledge the fact that I'm very open to you, and I actually do make it very, very public to you, everything that I do.
I mean, unless they edit the show so heavily that they left those conversations out, which is possible, we can't know for sure, then that statement is a strange statement. Now, does he feel in his heart that he's been very open, and when he says that, he's telling the truth, like, hey, I've been open with you, and that it feels open to him, even though most of us would watch and say he's not open? Or does he know he's not being open and he's lying once again? This is the cascade problem of lying. When you lie about little things, then everything could be a lie. And that's why people out there try to tell the truth. If you're having trouble telling the truth, at the very least, don't lie. Say things like, so I'm having an impulse to get defensive right now and maybe kind of spin the truth, and so I feel like we need to slow the conversation down. That's what you want to do, because once you lose that trust with someone else, then they will forever wonder if you're ever telling the truth, which is not a good way to start a relationship.
Like, for example, I've sent you that text message a while ago of my client.
Early in our relationship, Ash sent a text exchange that he had with a client that was hitting on him to prove that he ignores any flirtatious advances from his clients. But what I find most disturbing is that he did not actually say that he was even in a relationship. And it did lead to one of our breakups.
Okay, so another data point in this scenario is, in the past, it sounds like maybe they did have this kind of conversation when they were FaceTiming, and as a way to prove to Avery that he wasn't having sex with his clients, that he showed an exchange in which he turned down a client who was hitting on him. And that helped her, probably, but in the text exchange, he didn't say, I'm in a relationship. Now, why would he do that? Well, one, it's possible that he didn't really consider himself to be in a committed relationship with a woman that he had never met in person yet. But it sounds like he was saying that over FaceTime. It's also possible that he doesn't want to reveal that he's in a relationship because he believes that maybe that is a marketing element to his practice. A similar thing that we can look to are the Beatles. I love the Beatles. And when the Beatles were, teen heartthrobs in the early 60s, mid 60s, John Lennon was married at the time. And the band and their managers made a conscious effort to hide that from the public because so many teenage girls love John Lennon. And if they learned that John Lennon was married, then that would bum them out and their sales might go down. So it's a matter of making money. And he might intuit or know that part of his marketing is his sex appeal. And to get clients to come to him so that he can help them. He's not going to have sex with his clients, but his sex appeal is something that is alluring to some of his clients. He doesn't cross any boundaries. He doesn't flirt with them. I'm making a lot of who knows. I'm just providing a scenario that's possible. And he just believes that being single and available gets him more money. Now, obviously, that isn't probably a sustainable approach if he's going to be in a relationship. But maybe that was going on in the past, and it was an innocent white lie to the public, if you will, that if Avery knew the full story of, she wouldn't mind very much. But because if that is possible, which I could see that happening, he's still being shady about it. He's still trying to figure out a way you can see the gears turning in his head of how do I get out of this scenario rather than just being forthcoming. Again, my hypothesis is that he's not a psychopath, and the reason why he is closed with information is not because he's trying to use her, but because in his past he had some kind of trauma about being forthcoming that went wrong for him. And he falsely believes that by withholding, it will actually keep her close, which we all know isn't likely.
And I've done post of you on my Instagram, Facebook.
Hey.
Oh, okay, wow, okay.
I understand that you have me on your social media and stuff like that, but your clients might not have ever even seen that. So if they're talking to you personally and they're saying stuff like that, that's a great opportunity to just put it out there.
You want certainty, and I'm giving you certainty that next time, actually, if something like that happens, I will be mindful because I didn't see it that way.
So this is a classic conflict between two people in a romantic relationship. All of you have been in arguments like this, in my estimation. They're arguing about a particular topic, but not really what's actually happening. And as they lose differentiation, they become hyper-focused on the detail rather than noticing what really is happening. Avery, at the beginning of the conversation, was kind of still aware of what the basis of the fight was about, which is that she feels like he's not very forthcoming with information and he gets defensive about things that he shouldn't really be defensive about. She was in that space and she communicated that pretty well in the beginning. Now you see her as they go down a certain road and he kind of reacts weirdly. She's getting frustrated and kind of hung up on this detail. So now they're fighting about where he just says, okay, fine, you want certainty, you want to be a controlling a-hole, fine. The next time someone hits on me, I will say I'm in a relationship, fine. Are you happy now? Instead of what was the basis of this, which is, I was asking you about your job and you got defensive. Why do you get defensive? You get defensive about a lot of things. It's not just your job. It's about your ex-wife. It's about your brother. Everything you get defensive about, and you withhold information. And it makes me feel afraid that you're lying to me or you're trying to deceive me or you're not going to be forthcoming. I hope that Avery can say those kinds of things, bring it back to the real reason why people are having fights. Couples will come into my office and they'll have 10 million little details that they fought over, and it's my job to figure out, okay, what's the foundation of this conflict? So let's put aside all those details and let's get down to the foundation of the issue, because usually if we can get there, then we can actually resolve it.
I've been always very honest with her, but she decides to think what she wants to think. And in my mind, I thought, well, we have already talked about it. So now, actually, if you tell me that we didn't go deep, I have to be mindful of that.
Okay. It does worry me a lot to not know what he actually does tell his clients. I just hope that he's being true to me.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me out there. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.